Everyone at the wedding gasped. The groom, Bako, had just slapped his mother across the face in front of hundreds. And for what? A whispered accusation planted by the bride. But what no one knew was that this entire wedding, every flower, every vow, every smile, was a setup, a masterpiece of revenge by a woman he thought he had broken years ago. And now, she stood at the altar not for love, but for justice. By the time the truth unraveled, it was too late. His world collapsed, and she walked away, finally free. The wedding was like something out of a fairy tale. Expensive flowers covered every corner, golden decorations sparkled, and guests wore their finest clothes. Everyone was smiling, clapping, and taking pictures as Bako, the rich and handsome groom, stood proudly beside his beautiful bride, Habi. They looked like the perfect couple, young, rich, and in love. But while Bako beamed with happiness, Habi's smile was calm, almost too calm. There was something quiet and mysterious in her eyes, like a storm hiding behind a clear sky. No one noticed, though. They only saw her beauty and grace. She walked like a queen, held Bako's hand gently, and said her vows with a soft voice. But deep inside her heart, she wasn't there for love. She had a different reason for standing beside Bako today. Every step, every smile, every word was part of a plan she had kept hidden for years. This wedding wasn't just about rings and promises. It was the beginning of something much bigger, something no one in that room could ever imagine. From the first day Bako introduced Habi to his mother, Mama Lami didn't like her. She didn't even hide it. She looked at Habi like she was nothing. To her, Habi was too simple, too quiet, not rich enough, and not from the right family. She believed Bako deserved someone better, someone from their level, someone she could control. Mama Lami started throwing small insults, saying things like, "You'll never fit in with us," or "You're just lucky my son sees something in you." Sometimes she would smile in public, but whisper hurtful things to Habi in private. She would make Habi feel small, unwanted, and out of place. But Habi never fought back. She stayed calm and polite. She never raised her voice, never cried in front of her. She would just smile gently, nod her head, and walk away. No one knew the pain she was hiding. Behind closed doors, Mama Lami went further. She tried to break them up by spreading lies, even secretly meeting with other girls she wanted Bako to marry. She tried everything to make Bako doubt Habi, and once it almost worked. Habi felt broken, but she held on. She told herself, "Your time will come." Habi didn't want revenge back then. She only wanted to be loved and accepted. But after so many years of silent pain, something inside her changed. She realized Mama Lami would never accept her, no matter how kind she was. That's when she stopped hoping and started planning. This wedding day, the same one Mama Lami believed she had control over, was about to flip everything upside down. Habi looked calm, but inside her heart, the fire was burning. Today, she wasn't going to stay silent. Today, Mama Lami would feel what it meant to be powerless. The wedding ceremony had just ended. Bako and Habi stood before the crowd, hand in hand, smiling as husband and wife. Applause filled the hall. Camera lights flashed everywhere. Guests were cheering, singing, and celebrating their love. It was supposed to be the happiest moment of their lives. Bako turned to Habi and gave her a soft smile. He had no idea that everything was about to change in the next few seconds. Then, Habi leaned in close to Bako's ear. She didn't smile. She didn't blink. She whispered something very softly, just one short sentence. But those few words hit Bako like a thunderstorm. His smile faded immediately. His face changed. He looked shocked, confused, and suddenly very angry. He turned his head slowly and looked at his mother, Mama Lami, who was sitting in the front row, wearing her proud smile. But that smile didn't last long. Without thinking twice, Bako walked over to her and in front of everyone, slapped her across the face, hard. The sound echoed across the hall. Everything stopped. The music, the clapping, the joy. Everyone froze. People gasped loudly. Some guests screamed. Mama Lami held her cheek in disbelief, her mouth wide open, tears forming in her eyes. She stumbled back in her chair, humiliated. She couldn't believe her own son had hit her. And, in public, Bako's chest was rising and falling fast. He was breathing hard, clearly shaking from whatever Habi had just told him. His eyes were wild with anger and confusion. Everyone started whispering. Phones came out, recording the scene. It didn't make any sense to the crowd. Why would a man slap his own mother on his wedding day? What had just happened? But Habi just stood there, quiet and still, like nothing strange had happened. Her face showed fake concern, but deep down inside her, she was calm. This was not an accident. This moment had been planned. It was all part of the reason she came back. She knew exactly what to say to Bako, how to push the right button to make him explode. And now, in front of everyone, the perfect family image was falling apart, just like she wanted. The hall went completely silent, like someone had pressed a pause button. Just moments ago, it was full of joy, dancing, and music. But now, everyone stood still, mouths open, eyes wide, not believing what they had just seen. A groom had slapped his own mother in front of hundreds of guests, right in the middle of their wedding celebration. Phones dropped, cameras stopped flashing, the smiles on people's faces disappeared. Mama Lamy slowly touched her cheek, still feeling the sting from Bako's slap. Her eyes were full of shock and shame. She looked around and saw people staring at her. Some were whispering, others were recording. Her legs felt weak, and she stumbled to the floor, unable to hold herself up. A few women rushed to her side, but even they didn't know what to say. No one dared to speak loudly. No one understood what had just happened. Bako stood frozen. He looked angry, confused, and lost. His chest rose and fell quickly as if he couldn't breathe properly. His hands were shaking. He didn't even know what to do next. His eyes kept darting between his mother on the floor and his new bride standing beside him. The groom everyone had admired minutes ago now looked like a stranger. Habi stood quietly beside him. She held her bouquet tightly, her face full of fake surprise. She covered her mouth like she was shocked, just like everyone else. But inside her heart, she was calm. No fear, no guilt. In fact, she felt powerful. This was step one of her plan, and it had worked perfectly. The woman who once made her cry behind closed doors was now crying in front of the whole world. Habi didn't need to say anything. The damage was done. The perfect family image had cracked. Whispers turned to gossip, and the wedding atmosphere turned cold. All eyes were now on Mama Lamy, no longer the proud, controlling mother of the groom, but a woman brought down in the most unexpected way. And while the guests tried to understand what was going on, Habi silently smiled inside. She had just taken the first step, and the real show was only beginning. 5 years ago, Habi was a simple, hard-working girl. She was studying medicine at the university, full of dreams and hope. Life wasn't easy, but she managed to keep going because she had Bako by her side. They were deeply in love. He used to tell her that one day they would build a future together. He promised to support her, stand by her, and love her forever. Habi believed him. She trusted him with her whole heart. She thought she had finally found someone who would never leave her. But behind the scenes, Mama Lamy was watching. From the first day she met Habi, she didn't like her. She thought Habi was too poor, too ordinary, not good enough for her rich and successful son. Mama Lamy didn't care that Habi was smart, kind, and hard-working. All she saw was a girl from a simple background, and in her eyes, that was a big problem. Mama Lamy began planting seeds of doubt in Bako's mind. She whispered lies, created fake stories, and twisted every little thing Habi did. Slowly, she made Bako believe that Habi was using him, that she wasn't loyal, that she was only with him for his money. And then, she did something cruel, something Habi would never forget. She paid someone to create fake pictures and messages that made it look like Habi was cheating on Bako. When Bako saw those lies, he didn't ask Habi for the truth. He didn't give her a chance to explain. He simply believed his mother and walked away. Just like that, he broke her heart. He left her crying alone, calling him over and over, but he never answered. Worse, rumors spread quickly. People at school laughed behind her back. Her grades suffered. Her confidence shattered. Her dream of becoming a doctor almost ended. That moment destroyed Habi. She lost everything, her love, her dignity, and her future. But instead of staying broken, she made a silent promise to herself. One day, she would rise. One day, they would regret ever hurting her. She disappeared from everyone's life. No one heard from her again. But in the shadows, Habi was building herself, healing, growing, and preparing for the day she would return stronger than ever. After Bako broke her heart and left her without even asking for the truth, Habi completely disappeared. No one heard from her again. She packed her bags, left the city, and deleted all her social media. Even her closest friends didn't know where she had gone. It was like she had vanished into thin air. But Reby wasn't hiding in shame. She was healing, and most importantly, she was planning. Far away from the pain and gossip, Reby started over. At first it was hard. She had no money, no support, and her heart was still broken. But she didn't give up. She found a small job in a hospital as a cleaner, just to survive. Every night after work, she studied secretly, using old books and free online courses. She never forgot her dream of becoming a doctor. While others slept, she worked harder than ever, determined to prove she could still become something great, even after losing everything. Over the years, things began to change. She got a scholarship, finished her studies, and graduated with top honors. Slowly, she started her own clinic, offering care to poor women and children. Word spread about the kind, brilliant doctor who treated people with respect and love. But no one knew who she really was. Reby used a new name, a new style, and a different story. She had completely transformed. Now, she wore beautiful clothes, drove a sleek car, and owned her own house. She had power, respect, and a name that mattered in society. People invited her to high-class events, but she always stayed quiet about her past. Deep down, she still carried the pain, not because she hadn't healed, but because she hadn't forgotten the betrayal. And then one day, she saw Bako on the cover of a magazine, still rich, still admired, and still being praised with his mother smiling proudly beside him. That was the moment Reby knew what she had to do. She didn't want revenge with anger, number. She wanted something smarter, something unforgettable. She decided to walk back into Bako's life, but not as the broken girl he once knew. This time, she would come back as a queen, with grace, power, and a plan that would shake their entire world. Reby had returned, but not for love. She came back for justice. Reby didn't come back by accident. Everything she did was carefully planned. She had studied Bako's life for years, where he worked, who his friends were, what kind of women he now liked. She changed her look, her voice, and even the way she walked. When she was ready, she made sure to accidentally bump into one of Bako's friends at a charity event. From there, it didn't take long. The friend introduced her to Bako again, not knowing their history, and just like that, the game began. Bako didn't recognize her at first. She looked too different, polished, elegant, confident, but something about her pulled him in. She spoke gently, listened with interest, and smiled in a way that reminded him of someone he once knew. Reby pretended she was just a doctor from another city. She never mentioned the past, and Bako never guessed. Soon, Bako was falling. He called her every night, took her out to the most expensive restaurants, and showed her off like a trophy. Reby played her part perfectly. She acted shy, surprised, even grateful. But inside, she was watching everything. How Mama Lamy treated others, how Bako blindly obeyed her, how nothing had really changed. When he finally proposed, Reby said yes, with a tearful smile. But behind that smile was a storm waiting to be released. She planned every part of the wedding herself. The guest list, the music, even the camera angle. She wanted the world to see what would happen. She made sure Mama Lamy would be seated in full view of everyone. She made sure the reporters would be there. She made sure the moment would go viral. Every flower, every song, every smile that day was a tool in her hands. She acted like the happiest bride in the world, but her heart was calm, steady, focused. She wasn't there for love. She was there to finish a story that began 5 years ago with heartbreak and shame, and would now end with truth and power. Bako had no idea he was walking straight into a trap, a beautiful one, dressed in white. After Bako slapped his mother in front of everyone, the internet exploded. Someone had recorded the exact moment and posted it online. In just a few hours, the video went viral. People couldn't believe their eyes. A groom slapping his own mother on his wedding day. It was everywhere. News channels picked it up. Social media was filled with comments, opinions, and questions. Everyone wanted to know what led to that shocking moment. Reporters started digging. They contacted guests, searched old photos, and even spoke to hotel workers. And slowly, the truth started to come out. Some guests shared how Mama Lamy had looked surprised and hurt. Others said Reby had whispered something into Bako's ear just before the slap. Suspicion grew. People started to question the bride's role in all of it. Bako's business partners were not happy. His image was everything. A respectful man, a successful businessman, a good son. But now he looked violent and unstable. Sponsors pulled out of deals. Advertisers stopped calling. One by one, companies dropped him. His phone, once full of praises and invites, now stayed silent. Then came the biggest shock. Mama Lami, hurt and humiliated, went to the media. With tears in her eyes, she told her story. How she had always disapproved of Habi. How she warned her son, but never expected this. She spoke like a mother betrayed. People took her side. Her pain felt real, and public sympathy swung toward her. That's when Bako started to understand something was wrong. He looked at Habi, hoping for comfort, but she stayed quiet, cold, different. The more he thought, the more things didn't make sense. He remembered how perfectly everything had gone since they reconnected, how she had never mentioned their past, how the wedding felt too perfect. It hit him slowly. He had been fooled. He had walked into a carefully made trap. The woman he thought he loved, the woman he thought loved him, had used him. And now, in front of the world, he was falling. His career, his reputation, even his own mother had turned against him, all because of one whisper from the woman he never truly understood. As the music at the wedding reception played softly in the background, Bako stood frozen, confused and shaken. Guests whispered around him, unsure of what was happening next. Then, Habi slowly walked up to him. Her face was calm, but her eyes were cold. Without raising her voice, she leaned close and told him the words that would break him completely. This wedding was never real. Bako blinked. What do you mean? Habi looked him straight in the eyes. There's no legal marriage, no court papers, no registration, no honeymoon, nothing. He stepped back, shocked. What are you saying? I'm saying this was never about love. This was about closure, she said quietly. For the girl you threw away without a word. For the girl you left broken, alone, and humiliated. Bako's mouth opened, but no words came out. His hands shook. He looked around the hall. People were staring. Some were recording. Others had tears in their eyes. But Habi didn't care. She had waited years for this moment. You didn't even ask me what happened back then, she continued. You believed your mother. You let her destroy me, and you disappeared like I meant nothing. Bako tried to speak, to explain, but she raised her hand gently, stopping him. This wasn't revenge. It was the truth. And now, you felt a piece of what I lived through for 5 years. Then, she turned away. With grace and strength, she walked down the aisle again, but this time, alone. She passed the guests, the cameras and the flowers, all fake, just like the wedding. She didn't look back. For Bako, it was over. The dream wedding had turned into a nightmare. The woman he thought he had finally won back had only come to say goodbye. And now, he stood in the middle of a hall full of people, but completely alone. After everything, Habi didn't cry. She didn't hide. She simply walked out of that fake wedding with her head held high, her heart steady, and her mission complete. She returned to her clinic the next day like nothing had happened, but everything had changed. Patients waited for her, staff greeted her with respect, and the world finally knew her story. The news spread like wildfire. Blogs, news stations, and social media exploded with headlines about the woman who exposed a powerful family during her own wedding. People were amazed by her strength, her silence, her calm revenge. Some called her a queen, others called her a genius. But everyone agreed. She had changed the game. Reporters begged for interviews. Brands offered deals. Women sent her messages, thanking her for inspiring them. Men admitted they learned something about loyalty and respect. Even people who didn't know her felt like they had watched a movie in real life. And she was the star who won in the end. In one interview, Habi sat gracefully in her white doctor's coat. She looked into the camera, calm and composed, just like on her wedding day. And when the interviewer asked if she had any final words, she smiled softly and said, "Justice doesn't always come with noise. Sometimes it comes dressed in white." That single sentence went viral. People printed it on shirts, posted it as captions, and quoted it everywhere. It wasn't just a sentence, it was a message, a reminder that true power doesn't scream. It speaks through action, through peace, through quiet strength. And so, Habi continued her life, strong, respected, at peace. She didn't need to scream or fight anymore. She had walked away in silence, but the world heard her loud and clear. If this story gave you chills, Don't keep it to yourself. Share it now and let the world see what quiet strength looks like. Tag someone who needs to hear this. Follow for more powerful, mind-blowing stories that will leave you speechless. Because sometimes the loudest revenge is done in silence.